Well, hello. This is Karin Zoe Lee, and you're listening to Lotus Moon Productions. Welcome to LMP Music. Whatever the music, whatever the tune, we're here to learn, discuss, and promote the independent music scene. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 45 minutes as Shugo Hanasaki tackles the music industry one artist at a time.
Welcome back to the independent music side of Lotus Moon Productions. It's January 30th as of recording, and in the last few weeks, I've had the absolute pleasure of speaking with Orion from Thought Beings and Griff under Aztec Records, and I'm deeply thankful to speak with this absolutely talented lady as well. We're back with not only another artist from Aztec Records, but the creative director and is one half of the founders back in 2010. The company itself has signed artists such as Sunglasses Kid, Nina, Griff, Thought Beings, Primo the Alien, Bright Light, Power Rob, Popcorn Kid, Zenith Volt, and Bunny X, and so many more. But as for the lady of the hour, she has performed and written for popular artists such as Clean Bandit, Tao Cruz, Ricky Martin, just to name a few, and has had much success with her own career as well. Releasing her latest single, The Cards, just a few weeks ago off her debut album, Believer, which comes out February 12th, as well as tracks like Stunning, Recognize, and True, and having huge success with Nina on her latest releases, Sleepwalker, Cynthian, and Control. With her debut single, Stunning, reaching over 450 playlists on Spotify, she's here to share her journey as an artist over the next hour with us. So without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce LAU. Welcome to the podcast, my dear.
Thank you, Cody. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm really excited to speak to you. How's it going for you today?
Good. It's going good. Wow, what an introduction. Oh my God, I'm still going through everything in my head, everything you've just mentioned. Wow. Yeah, it's been a few busy years. But yeah, today's been great. I just got back from the beach. I've just relocated to Barcelona and I'm enjoying every single day on the beach, doing sports and just enjoying this beautiful city.
It must be absolutely beautiful over there. I'm very envious.
It's really nice, and also it's supposed to be winter, but it's like 20 degrees outside, so Celsius, which is pretty warm for winter, so yeah, really happy I made the move, really.
Cut to me over in Canada, just bent over, -7 weather in the snow.
Oh no, poor you. I'm sure you do winter sports or whatever it is you guys do over there,
I mean, maybe other people, but I do
skating.
I do appreciate that you think I do sports.
I know, right? You're probably just listening to synthwave all day or something like that. But yeah, I mean,
that's a good
right?
That's a good guess.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I do the same, and then I force myself to go out and enjoy, this beautiful city. There's lots of nature around here. There's the mountains, there's the beach. There's so many things you can do here. I'm really excited to explore. I'm fairly new in Barcelona, so it's all new to me, but it's really exciting.
Nice. So before we dive into your creative side, such as lyrics, music, and track previews, I felt it would be cool to learn some things about you as how Aztec Records came to be. And I have a two-part question, if that's okay to ask.
Sure.
So the first question is, what inspired you to start a record company, a record producing company, and the struggles and lessons that you've learned along the way? I read in your recent interview with Forged in Neon that Ariel, who is the other founder of the company, is your best friend, and you guys have been developing things since. Could you expand on that for anyone who is unfamiliar with your career? I imagine it couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, well, it's the way it started. We actually met with Ariel in London. We were both living there. I used to work in a rehearsal studio in London, in central London, in Leicester Square, and he came to rehearse one day. He's a really good keyboard player, and he was looking for a drummer for his band. So I kind of I jumped in and played drums for his band for a little while. And he originally set up the label just to release his own music, so his own songs, really, as a kind of small project in a way. And I thought, gosh, I'm like surrounded by musicians. I know a lot of artists and musicians because I was a session drummer at the time, and I was doing quite a bit at the time. I was also a DJ, and I said, look, I can bring lots of acts. We can sign lots of people to this label. Why don't we join forces and do it together? And that's what happened. He was like, yeah, sure, let's give it a go. And It was kind of, it started for fun, it was more like a kind of like a hobby, just putting out music that we were passionate about, and we still do. We release music that we're passionate about, but now it became more of a business, and we have a team of 13 people, and we're quite active. We release a lot of music weekly, and yeah, it's grown exponentially. It's been amazing, but I think I never realized how big it would be 10 or 11 years ago when we started. I don't think any of us knew how big we were going to get eventually, but yeah, we're super proud of the label and the community we've created around it, and the sound that describes us. I think it's pretty unique.
Wow. And I imagine there's a lot of struggles though that have come with that too, like a lot of lessons that you guys have learned.
Yeah. So answering to that question, we did learn a few lessons. Yeah, for sure. I mean, all the time. I think when you're a business owner of any kind, you're constantly learning. There's always going to be a setback, or there's going to be maybe times where you don't see eye to eye with other people, and you got to part ways, or you got to do things in a certain way and follow your heart. And there's a lot of times that you're going to feel kind of that you need to make tough choices as well. It's a business at the end of the day. You want to make sure you can survive, and that the business doesn't go under, and there's a lot of factors. So we learned a lot of the business side for sure, but we always stay true to our creative side. Ariel is a musician as well. He's a great composer and sound engineer, and he was the soundman for Phantom of the Opera in London in the West End for like 13 years. Super experienced guy, and I had my career as a drummer, etc. So we both stay true to our creative nature, and we both have the same very, very, very similar taste in music as well. So we always sort of agree straight away when we listen to music that excites us, that makes us feel something, that we want to sign it right away and put it out there and work with a certain artist. We always agree on that, and that's incredible. I don't think we ever said yes and no to one song. We usually go, yep, we love that, or no, that doesn't work. Like it's like one brain in a way. It's really weird, but we have this very similar taste in music, and I think that's why it works.
Yeah, I mean, being on the same page and being in sync like that is rare. So I mean, it's incredible that you guys have that connection.
Yeah, and also the trust. You were introducing him as one of my best friends, and I think of Ariel as a brother, really. So it's more like family. We trust each other blindly. We've kind of dived into this big project and invested a lot of time and money and effort, and yeah, you need to trust your business partner. You need to trust who you're working with, and create something from love. We created this from love. We didn't make a penny for the first few years. So it was more, just sort of a passion project at the beginning. And then, like any business, it kind of starts to grow a little bit more. And finally, you can maybe earn a little bit of money back. But it was a tough few years to start with.
I absolutely love how far you guys have come. Now, I imagine this past year hasn't been easy on the two of you. I mean, not only you guys, but for Aztec Records as well. Given the pandemic situation, how have you and your company been able to power through and kept the morale up?
Yeah, it's been a very, very challenging year. A lot of changes, and I think for the whole of humanity. Not just us, but for everyone. It's been such a crazy year last year. I changed country. I split up from a partner from my partner of many years, and it's been a year of figuring out how to carry on, how to survive, how to reinvent yourself. I think we've all been on the same boat. Luckily enough, I didn't depend on the touring income, but I know a lot of musicians, a lot of my friends that depended on touring and on making a living from playing live, and it's been devastating for them, to stay afloat. For us, we work digitally a lot. We work a lot with vinyl, cassettes, CDs. We kept releasing music as always. We just had to kind of rearrange and relocate and figure out the roles. But we've we've been busy the past year. We just haven't stopped, and I know a lot of musicians that they use that time to stay in the studio and just create some amazing albums, which you've mentioned earlier. Some of the artists we've signed and some of the fantastic albums they've released recently. And I think it was a year for that, just to stay at home, stay in the studio, be as creative as you can, be as productive as you can. Whereas normally you would be touring and traveling loads. That was a year to just stay home and make lots of amazing music. And hopefully touring will start again maybe at the end of this year or next year. I don't know.
Well, I hope so for all of you guys. I really do. What does Aztec Records look for in an artist who are looking to be signed?
The main thing is the song. We always look at a strong song. So it has to be a song that you can listen to in any context and that it will sound good. You can strip it down, and an amazing song should sound amazing just with a guitar or just with a keyboard, and also with tons of production as well. So it needs to be, the song needs to stand by itself. So that's the main thing as a publisher. That's what we look for. And then of course we want to hear something original, something charismatic. We want the aesthetics to go, the name and the aesthetics of the project to go with the music. You'll be surprised the amount of times that we get sent music that really doesn't match the name of the band or the image at all. Like they haven't even sat down and thought about it. Those are kind of the basics. And then everything else, I always say in interviews that potentially we can fix anything else. So as long as the song is good and your performance is good, we can fix the mix. We can pair you up with a better producer. We can help with the promotion side or the design or the video. So I think a lot of the stuff can be fixed, but the song needs to be good. I think that's the main thing. That's the first thing you should be focusing on as an artist. Write a really, really good song.
For sure. Now, at the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned a few of your releases, a few of your recent releases, such as The Cards, Recognize, True, and Stunning, and we'll have a few previews to share as well of some of those tracks. But what motivates you to continue releasing so much within the synthwave community?
Well, my own music. I mean, that's kind of recently I launched myself as a solo artist. Back in June, I think it was my first release, Stunning. But that was it was a need for me to say what I wanted to say, to write, to be creative, and also because of the pandemic, to just write an album from my heart about all the emotions I was going through after a difficult breakup, and hope that some people might relate to it, But yeah, I mean, I think as a musician, I think I'll never stop creating, in one form or another. I was a session drummer for a long time, then I was a DJ, then I was a producer, then I was writing for other people. Now I'm singing my own songs. It was all these different reincarnations. And I think we all are many things. We're not just the one thing. So I think in any shape or form, I'm always going to be creating or making music, I'll always be involved with music and collaborating. So I don't know, it just comes from the heart. Ask any musician why they keep writing music and why they keep releasing music. I think we can't help it. It's like an addiction.
Coming from the heart is the best place. And I mean, and speaking of the synthwave community, just before we dive into your music, I thought it would be perfect for someone in your position at Aztec Records to give a description on all the different forms of synthwave. There have been a lot of different subgenres to come out of this culture, such as retrowave, dreamwave, vaporwave, darkwave, etc., you name it. Could you share a light on any of those genres to the people who might be a little confused and potentially point some listeners in the right direction?
Wow, yeah. I mean, it's very broad. Synth music developed onto, there's at least 10 sort of streams of synth music that I can think of. You've named about 5 or 6 already. But yes, at Aztec Records, we focus specifically in synth pop, synth wave, and retro wave. So when I say synth wave, I mean, if I was explaining it to a 5-year-old, is music driven by synths. It's a fairly slow tempo, a pulsating bass line, and your best reference would be go and watch the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling, and that's going to be your starting point. That's a movie that kind of started the whole movement nearly 10 years ago. Retrowave, I mean, I think more of, Flashdance and going back to the fun side of retro 80s music, There's a little bit of guitars in retrowave. It doesn't have to be just synths, but yeah, I think Flashdance for me, that would be the most sort of iconic comparison. But the best way I would direct fans or the audience to go and find out, we've released a bunch of compilations on Aztec, especially for that reason. So we've released pure synthwave, pure synth pop, pure retrowave, and pure dark wave. So all the styles you mentioned earlier, we've released compilations for each of those. We curated that, and we wanted to, exactly for that reason, just to present it to an audience that might not know exactly what's what. So go and listen to those compilations, and it gives you a taste of what each style of music sounds like and what's the difference. But yeah, of course, it's all going to have some synths and some 80s influence, but there's a lot of, they just all sound very different. Some are darker than others, some are poppier than others, sweeter, darker, etc.
I really appreciate that too, because when I dove into the synthwave community about three or 4 years ago, I think now, I was a little lost because sometimes you have that really poppy 80s sound, but then now other times you feel like in a totally different direction. So there's a lot of people out there probably getting into the synthwave community who is just as confused as I was.
yeah, and also there's a lot of crossover, of course. A lot of us doing synthwave, we also do retrowave and a little bit of synth pop. It's kind of, there's a crossover. And originally, I mean, synthwave was always, I think, when I think of when this community just started, 2011, 2012, it was originally instrumental synthwave. That's what, and a lot of purists will argue that that's the best synthwave, is instrumental synthwave. And I remember with Nina, we had this idea of, well, let's just turn them into songs. Let's put vocals to this. I remember thinking, there's no girls singing this kind of music. There's not many guys either singing this kind of music. It's just instrumentals, and it's just amazing producers making this kind of music in their bedroom, but to an amazing standard. I mean, when we met Oscillian and Sunglasses Kid and a lot of these amazing producers, we all met on SoundCloud, and it was all very underground, And it was like, well, let's turn all these incredible instrumentals. They sound super filmic and they sound beautiful. Let's turn them into songs. Let's put a message to them. Let's put some lyrics and some proper sections, vocals, verse, chorus, pre-chorus, middle eight, ad-libs, treat them as songs. And I think that was a turning point where a lot of these new vocal synthwave bands starting to show up, us included, with Nina. And that was a turning point, because that kind of brought in more audience, that maybe it made it a little bit more accessible for people. And then, of course, you still get the purists that say, I prefer it without vocals, and and that's fine. It's art. You can, we all have our taste. That's absolutely fine. But I really enjoy when a song has a message and a strong lyric. And there's this say that I heard somewhere that it says, people will listen to a good song, but they will come back because of the lyrics. So they'll keep coming back because of the lyrics. The music is great, but the lyrics is what makes you come back to a song over and over again, because that lyric really meant something to you. It really spoke to you, So to me, that's really important.
I agree. Lyrics are incredibly important, and it's what it is what brings me back to the songs too. And getting back to your music as well, what would you describe LAU as to the synth community, to anyone who has never heard your material before?
I describe it as retrowave and synth pop. There might be a little bit of synthwave in there every now and again with some of the bass lines and some of the synths, but it's mainly retrowave and synth pop. So it's a little bit more upbeat. So if you compare it to the songs I used to write with Nina, where her stuff is much more slower tempo, much more melancholic, longer notes when we're singing, etc. This is much more, what I'm doing now is much more rhythmic. It's a little bit more upbeat. Like you can dance to it pretty much, you know. I think 8 out of 10 songs in my album, you can dance to it. And I actually dance to my album all the time. And I'm about to put out a video where I'm dancing like a lunatic. But yeah, so I think it's more upbeat and without being completely pop, because it's not the charts pop that you expect to, you know, to hear on the radio. It's synth pop, so it's a little bit, you know, more synth driven, and it definitely has the retro sound to it as well. So I have to say retrowave as well. So yeah, synth pop, retrowave with an 80s influence.
I'm definitely dancing to your songs as well. So
Yeah, were you dancing when you were listening to the album?
It totally was. I'm really enjoying the cards. And Believer I think is, I know it's the self-titled track, but I think it's one of my favorite songs on the album. I really do.
Awesome. Oh, thank you. That's so funny because that's the last song we wrote with Brian Skill. He's in Ohio. He's in America. He's a fantastic producer, and it nearly didn't make it. You know, like I was like, oh, can I squeeze in one more track in there? You know, I was gonna release 9 tracks, and we literally wrote that within a week, and had it mixed and mastered within, you know, another week, and we put it out. But and I thought, oh, that would be a nice title for the album as well, because it's a play on words, you know. It's about believing in myself, and also I was a believer. I was an idiot for believing in my, you know, in the lies of my ex, if you like. So it was kind of a play on words with the lyrics of the song and this new stage I'm at, you know, which is just believe in yourself, and let's just release myself as a solo artist and see what happens.
Well, since we're on the topic of Believer, let's share that self-titled track. How's that sound?
Okay.
All right. So to anybody who hasn't heard it before, I mean, it's coming out on February 12th. Let's hear the self-titled track Believer, and then afterwards we'll talk all about it. So here is Believer by LAU.
You were a deceiver, I was a believer. I could never think you'd go with someone else. What a fool. Even when you lied, you were so revealing. Trusted and played your game for so long. So long. Taught me what it feels to be alone. Whoa, no, it's done. You're gone. You just got a million pieces of my heart. Oh, you've known.
Now, as you mentioned before, you know, expressing yourself through past relationships and stuff, the lyrics strike me as a person realizing their self-worth, collecting themselves, and separating from an intense, powerful, emotional relationship. In fact, the entire album, after listening, sounds like one great collection of love songs that has empowering metaphors and a strong message about believing in yourself.
Yes, that's a really, really nice way of describing it. Yeah, the idea was to portray all the emotions I went through after breaking up. So, you know, obviously the heartache, the disappointment, the sadness, etc. But then there's also songs about, oh my God, now I can see that you used me, and oh my God, now I can see I was an idiot for doing this and for doing that, and for letting myself go and forgetting about myself and getting lost in the relationship so much that I don't know who I am I don't know who I am anymore. So is all the stages of kind of, you know, when you kind of go, you know, downward spiral, you kind of, you know, you will have depressing days, and then finally after a long time you finally see the light, you come out of the tunnel, you realize, you know, the kind of the anger and everything, the dust has settled, and you can see things properly with perspective, and that then there's that song, The Cards, that says, you know, I can finally understand the cards I've been dealt in this life. You know, I now I understand why I'm here and why I had to go through all that to finally find myself again. And you know, everything happens for a reason, and all that suffering hopefully taught me something. So that's what I wanted to portray, was all the stages I've been through this past year. And yeah, I mean, even though the lyrics are quite serious and sad at times, I think the music is quite upbeat. So I like that contrast, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of the cards, we'll share a track preview of that as well, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, of course, that would be great.
Cool. All right. So we'll dive into the inspiration more so and more of the background of the cards. And I mean, it's one of my favorite tracks off the album. So without further ado, here is a 45-second clip of the cards off the new album Believer by LAU.
I can finally understand the cards. I was built in this life. I can almost start to see the stars guiding me over to you, to you, to you, to you. All the roads lead back to you. All the roads lead back to you, to you, to you. All the roads lead back to you. Undivided, I know you're here far or near. What we design is in our mind.
Now, you mentioned on Bandcamp that the cards is like a stream of consciousness. The lyrics reflect on the philosophical meaning of one's life events, like an ever-present truth that only time reveals to be. Now, I think that's absolutely beautiful. I love the metaphors behind it. I'm a huge fan of tarot card readings, and as people know, they're never direct, and things can be interpreted in many different ways. Hearing that quote, "I can finally understand the cards I was dealt with in this life," reminds me of a feeling of closure and growth. Could we expand on its background, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's similar to what I was mentioning earlier, but it's finally when you go through this catharsis of you've suffered so much, you've had so much pain, you know, so much disappointment and sadness, and you know, whatever you go through when you go through a bad breakup, you know, which I'm sure someone has gone through one breakup in their life at least. But you need to kind of compose yourself and find yourself again and who you were before that relationship. And it could be a relationship, in my case, it was nearly a decade together. So finding yourself again, finding your self-worth again, and who you were before that person even came into your life. And finally arriving at a point where you're happy within yourself. You're happy with all the lessons you've learned, all the pain you had to go through and you had to learn. And whatever mistakes you made, you need to forgive yourself as well, you know, because obviously a breakup, you know, involves two people. It's not one person's fault, obviously. It's just life. So understanding all that and growing and finally going, this is where I'm meant to be. This is exactly where I'm meant to be right now. Like, just deal with it. You know, stop living in the past, stop living in the future. This is it right now. And the funny thing about the tarot cards that you mentioned, Cody, is that I didn't think of it as tarot cards, but I've had lots of fans mentioning tarot cards. I was just thinking about cards, you know, about playing cards, you know. So it's interesting because it keeps coming back, like fans are taking it as tarot cards, and that's awesome. I love people giving them, just give the song your meaning, whatever it means to you, you know. But it is definitely about growth and about just learning about yourself, being comfortable in your own skin, trust the universe. I think that song is about just trusting the universe. Trust you are where you should be right now. Look around you if there's any signs or anything, and if you feel like you're not in the right place, well, then make changes. But you know, I felt for me a big thing. That song is also about me moving from the UK after 20 years in the UK, moving to Spain. That was a huge step for me, to start a new life, and my heart was crying for that. My heart was like, we need to go now. Enough now, you know. I've been in London long enough, and I love that city, and I'm really connected with London and with the UK, and I'll always come back. But right now, I felt like I had to change. I had to go somewhere new and fresh, and I needed nature and I needed other things, you know. But that's what the cards is about.
Wow. Now, I mean, I that couldn't have been easy, but I'm so glad that you listened to your heart, that you're in a better place now. You've put that past behind you and you learned from it. And I mean, speaking of all those deep lyrics, and earlier we mentioned collaborating with Nina as well. And one thing that I had to touch on, because I read that you wrote the lyrics behind your collaboration with Nina, Automatic Call. Is that right?
Yeah, I wrote,
Now,
the lyrics and melody, harmony. Yeah.
yeah, now I have to just thank you, because that track, I think, is my most cherished song that she has ever released. I read that you wrote
Oh,
it anticipating a breakup, which couldn't have been easy to write. So I have to thank you for sharing that piece of your heart with us.
thank you. Thank you. I love that song. But yeah, it's really weird because I was kind of, yeah, it was really strange to write about. I think deep in your heart, you know, when you're not in a good place with your partner and you know what's coming. So it might not be right now, it might be in a year or in 6 months, but you know that some big change is coming. You might split up or whatever. I don't know. But I think I wrote it at a time where a lot of the songs I was writing were about splitting up, and eventually it happened. It came true. But yeah, I love that song and I love how Nina sings it. When we used to play that song live, her voice sounded incredible. Our voices complement well together. I sing the low octave normally, and yeah, it was good teamwork, that one. Yeah.
Well, without you two, I would have never heard of it. And again, I can't imagine how difficult it was to write a song with that much emotion. So I truly thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
And that now, and just speaking of Nina there, before we dive into the third track of the podcast, you collaborated with her on quite a few projects. Will you and Nina be collaborating more in the future?
I don't think so. She's got a new team now that she works with. So I don't know. But we did, yeah, we kind of discovered her in 2010, 2011, and developed her as an exclusive sort of Aztec artist. So we spent many, many years working together and finding her sound. It was a whole journey, actually, to find her sound. What kind of music would suit her vocal, because at the beginning we tried a couple of pop tracks, dance tracks. They didn't quite work. And then when we discovered sort of the whole synthwave movement, we were like, yep, this is perfect. It really goes with your angelic voice, and it's going to work. And we dived into that, But I don't know. A lot has changed in these last few years. I think she's slightly veering towards a different direction now. But yeah, she's got a different team. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if she's up for it, of course. We've written 3 albums together. I mean, yeah, we do complement each other when it comes to music, and like I said, our voices work well together. We'll see. No one knows what's going to happen in the future. So.
Well, not to make a pun, but who knows? It could be in the cards.
Exactly. We don't know what the cards hold.
Well, all the work that you two have done, I really appreciate it. Both of you have poured so much emotion into everything that you've released. So whether you collaborate more in the future or not, thank you to the both of you.
Thank you. I'm sure she'll do great things as well.
Now, getting back to your music as well, the third track that I want to focus on was Recognize. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Now, I think under Believer, I think Recognize might be my second favorite track of the album. I found it to be a perfect track to listen to on a late night summer evening, driving into the city, and the emotions behind the lyrics elevate it even more. And you even released a home video of it on YouTube, which was absolutely amazing. It was full of creativity. I love the 4 versions of you. It was just so much fun. So before we dive into the track, let's share a 45-second clip of Recognize. How's that sound?
Sure.
All right. Well, let's not keep the audience waiting any further. Here is a 45-second clip of Recognize by LAU off of her debut album, Believer.
I just need a reason. I don't want no run. Come and be my reason. I only need to look in your eyes. Shall we head on the same direction? Shall we pretend this is forever? Forever. Every time that we're together.
You mentioned in a previous interview that the lyrics behind Recognize are a hopeful, upbeat song about meeting someone and falling in love again. Do you think you could expand on that? And where did you find the inspiration and creativity behind that home video?
Yeah, so well, the inspiration for that video, it was one of those pandemic videos where I had no other choice but to film myself with my iPhone. And, I had no one to hold the camera or help me in any way. It was actually during lockdown, full on lockdown. I think I filmed that, around March or June last year. And it was just having fun, having fun with the song, and how can I sing all these harmonies and how can I interact with myself? Well, let's just clone myself. It was fun for me to make, and I thought, let's just put it out there. People don't know me yet. They know my songs, but they don't know me. They haven't seen me until now. It was all very fresh, very new. So I wanted to show a little bit of my side, and there's always a little bit of humor in my videos. I don't know, it just comes naturally like that. I want to have fun when I do things. But the story behind the song, like you mentioned, is one of the few optimistic songs in the album where I finally want to fall in love again. I want to meet someone that makes me feel different, that makes me feel something special. So it's a song full of hope that I'll meet someone and things are going to be okay. It's not all sad songs in the album, so that's why I wanted to portray every stage of that journey.
The greatest thing about your album too, I mean, yes, there are a lot of sad songs, but not only do they have an upbeat tempo at times, but the songs I feel do have hope in them. And that might sound cliche, but even from the breakup songs to empowering yourself again, and then with songs like Recognize, which is falling in love again, the album just from start to finish just sounds like I don't even know how to explain it, like a breakup dream almost. Like it just collaborates so well with each other. And I mean, the album comes out in less than 2 weeks, but out of the entire album, and this might put you on the spot, but what track are you most proud of or closest to on the album, and why?
I can answer that really easily, actually. But there's a song called Emotional in the album. It's a sad ballad. It's a sad power ballad, but I cried 2 weeks nonstop when I was writing that song.
Wow.
It was very raw. I wrote it at the exact time of just breaking up, like that moment where your heart is shattered in a million pieces and don't know what to do or how to carry on. It was a very emotional song, very honest, and just portraying what I felt at that exact time. I feel disposable. I feel emotional. I feel like I was nothing. I can't dwell much into it because I'm going to start crying, but that's that song. That's the one.
Well, thank you very much for that, and apologies if I brought you to tears there. I did not mean to.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
And,
let me have a sip of my tea.
I'm having some tea too. Cheers. Well, thank you for that description for Emotional. I mean, it definitely sounds like one hell of a journey through the album from start to finish. I mean, I've had the privilege of listening to Emotional. I've listened to your album from start to finish, and I cannot wait for the world to hear it in the next couple of weeks. But switching gears, now you've traveled a lot, and you traveled to a lot of different places while performing or producing. As someone who wants to get into traveling in the future, with what places have stood out to you? Any particular places that are high on the synth scene?
Oh, wow. Well, synthwave's grown so much in the last few years that I think there's some amazing scenes growing. For example, in Argentina, there's a big synthwave scene growing. There's an event called Buenos Aires Outrun, and they do these amazing events. Like they're pretty big. We played there with Nina once, and I'm hoping to go back when we're allowed to travel. I'm hoping to go and play there at some point. But Argentina is up and coming. Spain is up and coming. There's a few amazing sort of synthwave bands here at the moment, all around Spain. Of course, America. There's different pockets of synthwave events happening. in LA, well, in California mainly. We played a few times there. I think there's pockets everywhere. So I know I've heard of Australia as well. There's some synthwave movement going on there, but I haven't played there yet. Well, not with synthwave. I played there with Sam Sparrow loads when I used to drum for him, but I haven't been there with any synthwave music yet. But I know that it's all up and coming, and I think we're going to see a massive growth of more synthwave, communities all around the world, especially since there's a lot of mainstream acts now turning synthwave, like Dua Lipa and David Guetta and Sia, and everyone's sort of going to the synthwave underground world, So I think it's going to keep growing, but it's exciting to see every time I find a new city or a new event somewhere. I get excited. It means we're growing, we're growing and we're stronger together. We're all connecting, which is amazing.
With the synth community getting bigger and bigger, and the synth fan being so friendly, it's been so wonderful to experience it over the past few years, and it's been wonderful to connect with you. It's been wonderful to connect with so many other artists, especially from Aztec Records. It's been phenomenal. Now, with about 10 to 15 minutes left in the podcast, I've started to learn some personal hobbies and interests from my previous guests near the end of the podcast. I feel it's a great way to connect the artist with the audience more. Would you mind sharing any of that with us?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I love sports. I always loved sports all my life. I used to play tennis when I was a teenager. I used to do rock climbing, all sorts of things. And now my newfound hobby in Barcelona is beach tennis. So it's a bit like beach volleyball, but you play it with a small racket and a tennis ball, and it's amazing because you're by the sea, you got all the palm trees, it's just beautiful. You can fall on the ground and you're not going to hurt yourself, and it's just lots of fun. And I've been playing beach tennis a couple of hours every day, and I love it. And I also love, I practice yoga. I do boxing as well. So just lots of sports. I love also trekking, walking in the mountains. That's also lovely. Connecting with nature and taking advantage of this beautiful city that is Barcelona. After coming from London, which is, it's a bit of a more proper city, lots of buildings and not a lot of nature. So you got to travel a lot to go into nature. So I really miss this connecting again with the mountains, with the sea, and looking after my body and being healthy, and practicing sports, which I love.
Nice. I mean, that tennis by the beach with the ocean and the tropical trees, all it's missing is that synthwave sunset. I mean, it sounds like a synthwave dream over there.
Yeah. I know. It's like a synthwave video. Well, in fact, I've just filmed my music video for True, which is gonna come out in a couple of weeks, hopefully. And I wanted to get some of that in there. So yeah, there's a few palm trees and there's the beach and all that, which was always my dream to have that on a video. So I finally did it. Nice.
Now you and I share a favorite 80s movie as well. I heard that you love Back to the Future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just bought the socks the other day. I got some socks with Back to the Future on them.
Oh, what? I'm super envious.
They're amazing. Check out my story. I posted it, I think, yesterday. I just found these socks with Back to the Future on them, with the car, with the DeLorean. I was like, this is amazing. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have the trilogy on Blu-ray, and I've been itching to watch it now again for the last little bit. So I'm probably going to put it in shortly.
Amazing. I need to watch it again. I mean, it's been years, but yeah. No, what a fantastic trilogy, really. What a masterpiece those three movies are. Really fantastic.
Yeah. Now, I mean, besides sports and favorite movies and everything, just to share it out there, is there any favorite food or video games or even TV shows that you like?
Well, I mean, on Netflix, of course, I'm enjoying Cobra Kai, like everyone else.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. What else have I been? Gosh, well, I used to love, Riverdale and, of course, Stranger Things. I mean, I know it sounds predictable, but all those shows, when they first came out, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. All these, using synthwave music and synthwave aesthetics, and I just found it incredible to be able to watch that on Netflix. It's suddenly all gone mainstream, which is great. And then foods. I mean, I'm on a kind of healthy regime at the moment, so anything healthy, like I love Japanese food, for example, that is super healthy. There's not a lot of like fat or fried or not a lot of carbs in there. But yeah, I don't know, anything fresh and organic if possible. That's what I like. And I love ice cream as my guilty pleasure, of course.
Nice.
Who doesn't?
I love Japanese food though, man. That's my jam. I think I could eat Japanese food literally every day.
Yeah, right? Oh my God. I mean, and of course I was talking about carbs, but sushi, I know it's got rice and everything, but I could eat sushi until the cows come home. I mean, I never get tired of sushi. It's amazing. But it's got quite a few calories. I mean, it's quite heavy on the calorie side.
It sounds like the perfect date for you and I. We can have sushi, we can watch Back to the Future, and you can beat me in boxing.
Perfect. Yes. We should do it sometime.
For sure.
Yes.
Now, going forward into 2021, I remember reading that you had planned a solo tour this year, as we kind of briefly talked about. But with the pandemic, I'm wondering if things have changed. We know you're releasing your debut album in 2 weeks, and we now know about the True music video coming out. But are there more live streams or possible remix EPs in the future?
Yeah, the live touring won't happen. I don't know until when. It could be the end of this year. I'm still on the early stages of putting the show together. So I'm not sure what's the situation going to be. But yeah, it might be just live streaming, like you said. But it won't be just yet. I still need time to sort of figure out what I want to do on the show live, what instrument do I want to play and how do I want to perform, because the possibilities are endless, so I need to sort of figure out what the show will be like. And then I am collaborating. I'm doing sort of lots of featuring tracks with other artists. And I can't announce anything yet, but there's some amazing collaborations coming out, which I love as well. So before I start working on my second album, I just want to make sure I can collaborate with lots of people. There's lots of producers that I admire and that are fantastic, and I want to make sure I can put out a few songs and sort out my live show, and then only then start focusing on the second album. But I still got a lot to do with this first one, filming a few videos and things like that. So a lot of content coming up. So make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. But it's going to be a busy year ahead for sure. Plus all the Aztec releases and all the Aztec artists that we're super excited about.
Well, just like any great creation, leave your audience always wanting more.
Yes, exactly. It's all coming.
Now, one question I love asking music artists at the end of the podcast is, do you have any shouts or suggestions for other artists you're currently listening to? Anyone in particular that keeps you motivated?
Anyone in particular? Let me think about this. I mean, I've got artists that really inspire me, that they're not necessarily from the synthwave scene, but artists like Christine and the Queens and Robin, which I mentioned before, LP, Haim, who I did a cover recently. These are artists and these are songwriters that I really admire, and I admire what they do with their vocals and their lyrics and their harmonies. And that's something that I really look up to, and I never get tired of listening to their music, because again, they take you on a journey, and it's sort of performed beautifully and produced beautifully. So those are kind of the artists that I've been listening to a lot recently. And of course, synthwave. But synthwave, I listen to that all the time, every day, and it's kind of my job, So that's a given. But yeah, there's some fantastic producers out there. I mean, Droid Bishop, Sunglasses Kid, anything that Ollie Wright does, he's fabulous. I hope we can collaborate one day. But Grief is amazing. Like just so many fantastic producers out there that I really admire. So yeah, I'm always finding inspiration, from one place or another. And I look up to really good songwriters. I think that's a fantastic talent to have, to be able to put into words and into music and emotion and transmit that properly.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I have to say, Ollie Ride is one of those voices that is just out of this world, and it would be a dream to ever talk to him one of these days on Lotus Moon Productions. But lastly, the last question of the podcast: to anyone listening who wants to become an artist, or who is who is working on becoming one, what advice could you give to help them along?
The main thing, I think, is stay true to yourself. So don't pretend to be something you're not, because people will tell eventually. They will find out. So just, it needs to come from the heart. Whatever it is you're doing, be passionate about it. Have something to say. That's also important. Pay attention to your lyrics. They're very important. And just persevere. Don't give up. It can take years and years and years to break an artist. That's why some of the recording label contracts are long, because it could take literally a decade or 5 years to break an artist and to have, to start to see some big important results. So don't give up. It's an industry that takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. But if you believe in it and if you just keep at it, you're going to go far. Just don't give up. Trust me on that. It takes time.
Well, thank you so much for that. And with that, we will wrap things up. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, LAU. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much, Cody. It was great chatting to you.
Now, could you share your social media with everyone so people know where to find you and Aztec Records?
Sure. Well, for Aztec Records, it's just aztecrecords.com. That's going to direct you to our Bandcamp page. You're going to see our 30 or so artists in there and all our releases. And for me, you can find me, it's LAU Fares, which is my surname. You can find me everywhere with that, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, on Spotify. You probably have to put LAU and Stunning, which is one of my first singles, and that will show you my Spotify profile. But yeah, just find me and connect. You'll also find me through the Aztec website anyway. Connect, send in your demos. We're always looking for talent. There's a submissions email on our Bandcamp page, and yeah, just we hope you like our music.
Thank you so much for that. And as for our socials, you can find us at SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Instagram under Lotus M Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, and you can search us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. This has been LMP Music. Please be safe, please be kind to one another, and with that, we are signing off.